Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Reddit Aliens. I am John, and as always, thank you so much for being here. Good dark topic for you today. A little not safe for work. Let's do it. What horrible thing did you see that still messes with your head to this day? Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. When I was around 8 or 9, I saw someone get decapitated on a roller coaster. I was about 4 rows behind them, and I believe it was the first coaster I'd ever been on. A jackass college kid who managed to circumvent the seat bar because he thought it would be fun to get thrown higher on the ride. I was covered in gore and screaming. It got in my mouth. I've seen worse things now, but I cannot ride roller coasters. This really didn't mess me up so bad, but it changed how I did my work. When I was doing my apprenticeship as a locksmith, I spent a lot of time working at the local housing authority. I would have to open and rekey units that were abandoned and such. I found a guy who'd been dead for about 6 months. He was an old guy, and all his bills were paid by direct deposit and auto draft. Evidently, his family set it up that way so he couldn't gamble his Social Security insurance check away or buy crack with it. But no one ever looked in on him. He had had a heart attack or stroke, sitting in his chair watching TV one night and died. So, 6 months later, I have to open the apartment because water was leaking from his unit under the wall to the next unit. If that pipe hadn't burst, I'm not sure how long it could have gone on. From then on, I made sure wherever I did work like that on a site, employees were with me. That was not the only dead guy I found when I was locksmithing. Anyway, I was wondering how many other people have had experiences like mine. Going to make not safe for work in case someone posts gore pics or anything. I discourage it. We all know where those subreddits are. When I was 19, I had to pull my girlfriend of 3 years out of a car accident. I know, technically you're not meant to, but I was terrified that the car was going to catch fire. She died minutes later, and there was nothing I could have done about it. It took me about a year of completely destroying and rebuilding myself to even begin to get over it. I'm still not fully over it 4 years later. Watched my friend get hit and killed by a car in the 8th grade. He died en route to the hospital, but beside the initial blood, it wasn't gory. It's something that's stuck with me ever since, but it hasn't caused any problems in my life, just an effed up situation to happen in front of your eyes when you're a kid. The look on his mother's face as she ran up to me and my other friend at the scene haunts me to this day. At the bar with friends, one heads home a bit early and we head to his place for after drinks. Drunkenly crashed through his bedroom door to find him just standing there with a blank look, small smile, holding the knife he had just used to slash his wrist and arms apart. Got him to the hospital on time, but still can't shake the look on his face. Well, a night probably went a horribly different direction, but at least you were there, and hopefully that your friend or person had a bit of turnaround after a tough time. I've seen my friend get her legs cut off by a train, and then had her head in my lap, trying to help while she was bleeding all over the place, legs detached. I also, a few months later, saw a man crawl under a train to decapitate himself. It's messed with my head quite a bit, but I've learned to deal with it in a healthy manner. This may not be that terrible compared to seeing someone's head popped off, but one thing that stuck with me for a while was a few years ago, I had a coworker whose daughter gave birth to a stillborn child. That's terrible in and of itself, but what they did afterwards just kind of freaked me out a bit. Apparently, they thought it would be a good idea to let the family members that were there hold the dead baby. And someone else thought it would be a good idea to take pictures of the family holding the dead baby. And then she thought it would be a good idea to bring those pictures to work and show them to coworkers. Yeah, walking up on a group of coworkers and having them tell you that their dead grandchild in the picture kind of burnt those pictures into my brain. I was driving home from work one day, and this guy had his dog tied to a leash in the back of his pickup truck. Nothing really new there, it's Georgia. Anyway, we get stopped at a red light. Me directly behind him, and the dog jumps out, still tied up. The guy bolts off, and I speed up to shout at him out the window, that he was literally hanging his dog and dragging it to death on the road. I got him to stop, but holy Christ, at that poor doggy. I saw my mom bent over cleaning our fireplace out one night to build a fire. My father, who was drunk as usual, was holding a shotgun against his chin. He said, "Dare me?" And she said, "Don't be stupid." I was too concerned because we routinely had to talk my father out of suicide. A few weeks before, he had driven his truck into a tree and said it was because I didn't love him. Then, however, he pointed the gun at my mother. She lowered her head and looked away, said nothing, and out of fear, I turned and hid behind the wall in the kitchen. I heard her scream and the sound of a gunshot. He missed, but the whole experience is in the top 5 worst experiences ever and still F's with my head. 2 internet videos gave me shell shock for a week. The first was one titled Unedited Battlefield Footage. The other was a video from the cartels in Mexico where a couple guys get their heads chainsawed off. The Battlefield one was so scarring mentally because it showed a guy stepping on a mine and then the medic doing his job to patch the guy up. It looked like he lost an arm and his leg and maybe his eyes. There was just so much gore, and the poor guy was still alive. I really hope he's okay. I still wonder about that guy. The cartel one was so graphic I almost vomited. The first bite of the chainsaw into the guy's neck and the way his body tensed and all the blood, God, it's horrible. The chain even nicked the other guy in the shoulder, and he didn't react. It's so scary what people can do to each other. I don't go on Live Leak anymore. Never should. I don't know why I have this visceral reaction when people say, I saw these internet videos. Again, the internet's there for learning and socializing and God knows what else. But I don't know, I get angry when people watch some people's last moments or things like that. It's no one's fault and it's there to be seen, but fundamentally, I completely disagree. Sorry. On July 26, 2012, I was on my way to camp with the school I'm working with, and we pass a horrible accident. It's nothing new, seeing as most people have seen terrible things in life, death being nothing new. But the most disturbing thing was the mother sitting in front of me who grabbed her 4-year-old son and made him stare at the dead body. To me, that was the most disturbing thing I've ever seen and heard. The whole time, the woman is just grinning and holding her son's head to look at it, and he's trying to squirm away. I stopped a friend from killing himself. He had sent out a mass text goodbye, and I was the first to get to him. I had to basically break into his house and get into the bathroom. Once I opened the bathroom door, all I saw was my friend sitting on the edge of the bathtub, and there was blood everywhere, on every surface. He even wrote, "I'm sorry" with it on the floor. It scarred me. I didn't sleep for a week, and I still have nightmares about it to this day. It happened almost 4 years ago. It caused major mental problems that I'm still dealing with. Feels bad, man. When I was in middle school, I was walking to a friend's house in ABQ along a main road. I was passing by a daycare, and someone was trying to turn left into the parking lot of the building. As I passed the entrance to the lot, I heard a squeal and a smash of metal. I looked back, and that person had turned left into oncoming traffic. The driver must not have had a seatbelt on, as the collision moved him from the driver's seat into the passenger seat, and his head busted through the passenger window. It was hanging limply out the window as the car slowly starts rolling, as it's on fire and dripping fluid, rolling right at me. I got the F out of there too, scared, scarred, young to realize I should have stuck around to perhaps give police an account, though I didn't actually see the accident, just heard it and saw the aftermath. That was the first time I'd ever seen an accident or gore. But what really got me was as I was walking away, all the rest of the oncoming traffic starts getting backed up. People are honking, trying to veer around the slow lanes, etc. Some guy leans out the window and asks me, "Was there an accident?" "Yes," I say. I'm gonna be late," he says. He tries to change lanes again. It was his indifference to the whole thing that shocked me more. For Christmas 2007, my family decided to take our Christmas break in New Orleans, helping strip and refit houses condemned by flood damage from Hurricane Katrina. I was really excited to be helping out. Just finished college, just started working on a political campaign for a guy I really believed in, feeling like I could do anything, fix anything, make a difference with every day. So we're driving down through Alabama, and we notice that all the cars are pulled off to this side of the road, kind of a long line. We pull over too when we see why. A big black GMC SUV driving the other direction had veered into the median, hit a ditch, and flipped end over end, coming to rest almost in the fast lane of our side of the road. I don't know why, but everyone was just sitting in their cars. I imagine someone had called 911, but otherwise they were mostly just sitting there. I was sitting in the way back, the part of the station wagon that faces backwards for when you're trying to fit 5 grown adults into one car. So I guess I had a better angle to notice that one of the passengers, a 15-year-old girl, had been thrown from the vehicle and was lying on the shoulder of the highway, now behind our car, but on the other side of the road, at least 10 meters from where the SUV had come to rest. I bolted. I got out of the car and rushed over to her. I was a Boy Scout. I had first aid training. I was going to help. When I got to her, I could see blood, and I could hear her labored breathing, but the one thing that sticks out in my memory is she had a pierced navel and this little jewel hanging down, resting now on her tanned skin as she lay writhing on the asphalt. Anyway, I'm in helping mode now, so I take off my flannel shirt, good for applying direct pressure to the wound, and I kneel down beside her and say, "Can you hear me? Are you okay?" She turns her head to me, and she sputters and blood comes out of her mouth. As she turns away, continuing to squirm about, I can see the side or back of her head, now closest to me, is not right. It's just blood. I can't tell what's just covered in blood and what's actually. Now I can hear that she's really not breathing right. And where the F is everyone, it's not just labored and wheezy, but it's really inconsistent too. I'm sitting there, kneeling over her, ready to apply direct pressure, but having no idea how to stop the bleeding when the blood is coming in her nose and mouth. How do you do CPR on someone who's still breathing? If she's drowning on her blood, I can turn her sideways, but she is at extreme risk for spinal trauma right now. So what about not moving people like that? I'm still holding my shirt in my hands, looking for the place to apply direct pressure. Apply direct pressure to the wound, they told us. That would save someone's life. I took that class. I got that merit badge. I renewed my CPR certification. Why then was I so powerless in this moment? What was I forgetting? Was there a lesson I had skipped? Now, I'm just looking at her, like when you lose your place in a puzzle and you feel the clock ticking, and you just try to glance quickly at everything, hoping you'll suddenly notice the thing you were missing. She's looking at me for a moment at a time, but she's still writhing, and I can't tell how much of her movement is voluntary. And where the F is everyone? A couple people arrive with a first aid kit and gloves and what appears to be a bit of training. So I stand up to get out of the way, sputtering something about her condition, probably completely unhelpful, still just watching. She keeps looking at me. Her face is calling out for help, but she can't speak, either because she has massive head trauma, or because she's in shock, or because she's choking on her own blood. The little rhinestone sitting on her tummy seemed so cruel in that moment. When she got it, did she think she was just getting started with life? I don't remember if it was my mom or my dad or my brother or my sister. I'm guessing it was my mom. But someone came over to collect me. I can't talk. I cross the road and sit in the grass, watching the girl as her writhing slows and the 2 first aiders try to help. Within about 5 minutes of our arrival, an ambulance arrives. "Come on, babe, we have to go." "Right now?" "Yes, honey, now. We don't need to see this." I read later that the 15-year-old girl died in the ambulance on the way to the hospital. Never have I felt so impotent, nor so betrayed by my training and my trainers, as in that moment when I sat there ready and willing to help, repeating my first aid lessons over and over in my head, watching a little girl die on the side of the highway. Well, you were heading down there to do a good deed, and you did. Again, what happened was not your fault, and You tried to help, but some things you just weren't ready for at that time, or maybe the injury wasn't seen. So don't beat yourself up too much for it. I know it's easier said than done, but you did a lot more than probably a lot of other people did. So good for you. The dashcam video of the young cop carrying out a routine traffic stop before the crazy man in the other car gets out and charges him with an automatic rifle. The policeman's death screams as he pleads for mercy still haunt me. Also, the dashcam video of the family driving along the highway when a brick is kicked up by a passing lorry, slamming into the windshield. There's silence until all of them start screaming and pleading with the person in the passenger seat to wake up. You see the trend here with me, as it's mostly sounds of people in pain or terror that have left the biggest impact. Most horrific videos that are just visual do not faze me, but when you hear the sounds of someone's anguish or their last screams, that really hits me hard, especially when the visual part is the left to the imagination. When I was around 8, I had been at work with my dad. He's a golf pro that works at a course, so I used to practice on the range whilst he was teaching. It was about 9 p.m., and we're halfway home when he pulls over the car. I ask why, and he points to the side of the road. There sat a bunny rabbit. Its back half had been hit by a car and was slightly mangled and twisted. It sat there on the side of the road, twitching its nose and staring at me. My dad grew up on a farm. He decided he had to put this bunny out of its misery. He goes to the boot of the car and pulls out his 9-iron and approaches the bunny. I sit bewildered. I'm a massive animal lover, but at this age I couldn't comprehend putting an animal out of its own misery. I still thought my dad was just killing this bunny, when we could have easily taken it to the vet to be fixed. He widens his stance, places the back of the iron beside the bunny's head, pulls back, bam. There was a horrible popping, squelching sound, and my dad shouts, "For!" For weeks, I wouldn't talk to him. I cried myself to sleep for a few nights after that.